Hello, this is Zamanzadeh from ZZNetworking.com. In order to see better, press this icon to view full screen. Now, in the previous tutorials, I was going over the concept of constraints with you, and we just got done altering the table con2 and modifying the number ordered column to make sure that no null values could be in there. Now, in the first code, you'll notice that we went ahead and gave the con2 table a primary key constraint on the column level. You'll notice that we also gave the con1 table a not null constraint on the column level. But at the same time, we gave several other constraints at the table level. This time we're going to go ahead and create a third table, and this third table we're going to create all the constraints at the column level. So let's go ahead and code the following. Now once again, don't let the code confuse you. It's actually very simple to understand. We say create table con3. We open up our parentheses and we say ID. That's the name of our first column. Its data type is char, and its length is, of course, 3. We then use the reserve word constraint. We then have to name that constraint. Since the name of our table is con3, we put that first, followed by an underscore, and then the name of the column, ID, followed by another underscore, and the name, the abbreviation of the constraint we're using, which is a primary key, so PK. We then go ahead and list the constraint type, which is primary key, followed by a comma. This tells Oracle that we want the ID column of this table con3 to be its primary key. After the comma, we then go ahead and make another column called region. We then go ahead and give it the data type varchar2 and a length of 2. We then use the reserve word constraint, followed by, once again, the constraint name, which is whatever we want it to be, but since we want it to be meaningful, we say con3, name of the table, underscore region, the name of the column, underscore CK, because it's going to be a check constraint. And we then go ahead and list the conditions. We open up parentheses. Now remember, you have to list the column name, which in this case is region, and then you list the condition. The condition is region is in, and we give a list of the different values that may be entered. They can enter N, which stands for north, NW for northwest, NE for northeast, E for east, W for west, S for south, SW for southwest, and SE for southeast. Now, remember, before the region, we open up a parentheses, and after the N, we open up a second parentheses. So what do we have to do next? We have to close both parentheses, followed by a comma. And for our third column, we call it name. It's varchar2 data type, a length of 20, and for this constraint, we want it to be unique. So, we go ahead and put down the reserve word constraint. We then go ahead and put down the name. It can be whatever we want, but to be meaningful, we call it con3, the name of our table, followed by an underscore, the name of the column, which is name, followed by another underscore, abbreviation of the type of constraint, which is UK, and then we have to list the constraint type, which is unique. After we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and close parentheses. The parentheses that we opened up here at the top. Control Enter, and sure enough, we get table is created. Now, let's go ahead and describe this table. Describe con3. Just a reminder, The unique constraint that we added means that every value for the name column has to be unique. Unlike a primary key constraint, which every value has to be unique, the primary key cannot have null values. The unique constraint can have null values. So we see down here that the ID column of the con3 table, under the section nullable, it shows us that you cannot add null values because it is the primary key of this table. However, the name column, which is right over here, you notice under the nullable section, you can have null values because a unique constraint simply means every value entered has to be unique, but you can have null values. Now, I know that this is a lot for you to digest all at once. In the previous several videos, I've introduced you to constraints, and in future videos, we're going to go ahead and insert values into these three tables and view how these constraints affect which values you can and cannot add into the tables you've just created. Now, before I end this video, I'd like to go ahead and remind you of a few things. You can enter constraints, as we just did, at the column level. You may enter constraints, as we've done for con1, at the table level. The only exception is the not null constraint. That must be entered at the column level. It cannot be entered at the table level. In addition, you may alter a table and add a constraint to that table. The only exception is the not null constraint, which you can add to table, but instead of saying add constraint, you use the word modify followed by the column name, the name of the constraint, and the words not null. That's the way to do a not null constraint to a table. Now, in addition, remember there are 5 constraints. There's primary key, which is abbreviated as PK, foreign key, which is abbreviated as FK, a check constraint, which is abbreviated as CK, a unique constraint, which is abbreviated as UK, and the not null constraint, which is abbreviated as NN. That's just a brief recap. I suggest that you create these tables and go through these videos a few times. At the same time, you may want to go ahead and create a few dummy tables, give them a random name, and practice adding on constraints. Just a reminder, if you choose to do so, and you should, when you're using a foreign key constraint, which I'm highlighting here, you must reference a table that has a primary key. If we tried to code this con1 table with this foreign key constraint, and we said it references con2, an order ID in con2, which is up here, and this table did not exist, or if order ID was not designated as its primary key, this entire code here would give you an error. Make sure when you're using a foreign key constraint and you're referencing another table that that table exists and that the column you're referencing is the primary key. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you for your time, and may God bless you.